budget. And guess what one of the biggest headlines from the budget is? It fully repeals the president's health care law. That's right. On the day when we hear that millions of Americans have signed up, Paul Ryan says they should all be kicked off. Nice going. But besides that, I have to admit, my expectations were high for this budget. After all, over the past few months, Congressman Ryan has become the anti-poverty crusader for the GOP.
Concern for the poor? It is not some policy niche. This goes to the very, very heart of the American experiment itself.
We want to make sure that our poverty-fighting programs are meant to get at the root cause of poverty, to break the cycle of poverty, to get people out of poverty. This is why I'm focused on poverty these days.
Hear that? He's focused on poverty these days. And his focus on poverty means a budget. That makes a budget that makes a special effort. But what does he do? He makes an effort to gut Medicaid that ruins Medicare as we know it, and then destroys the current food stamp program. But he's not done there. He also wants to cut Pell Grants for low-income college students, cut pensions for federal workers, even get rid of money for public broadcasting. Yes, taking a page from Mitt Romney, he wants to kill Big Bird. Because, you see, we just don't have any money. And that's on top of getting rid of the health care law.
We can't just keep spending money we don't have. That's the basic acknowledgement when you're budgeting, just like families and businesses do, that you cannot continue to kick the can down the road, that you cannot continue to spend money we just don't have.
See, it's just basic budgeting. We can't keep spending money we don't have, even for hungry children. But don't worry, the so-called wonk managed to find some spare change in his couch cushions for the military. Just a cool $483 billion. Oh, and he also managed to squeeze out some tax breaks for corporations and the rich. How's that for a focus on poverty? All while gutting programs like Obamacare. That's poor work from someone who says he cares about poverty. Joining me now is Congressman Chaka Fattah, Democrat from Pennsylvania, and the Daily Beast's Michelle Cottle. Thank you both for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Good to be with you.
Congressman Fattah, Congressman Ryan's budget hinges on repealing a law that just marked his most significant achievement. I mean, what is the logic behind that?
Well, look, 7.1 million signed up. We got another 3 million when their young people on their parents' plan. You add in CHIP. I mean, the president's done more to uplift families than in terms of health care than you can imagine. The Ryan budget not only adds $483 billion to defense, but it cuts $791 billion from programs that help low-income and working-class families. So it's a budget that is challenged on its philosophical basis, its moral basis. The math doesn't add up. Not only does he repeal Obamacare, he keeps all of the savings from Obamacare to fund his defense spending. So you can't do both. If you repeal it, you can't have the savings that it generates. And as the CBO has indicated, the Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act creates savings for our government because it lowers the rising costs of health care. So this is a great day for our country on health care. For the Congress, it's a little off-key note from the House majority with this budget. This budget is not going to become the law of the land. We know that. Paul Ryan knows it. It's a political document aimed at winning over more wealthy supporters and contributors to finance Republican campaigns.
Michelle,
but it's not going to be the law.
Michelle, what do you think about the repeal of Obamacare talking point that Ryan and the Republicans are now putting down? Doesn't it ring hollow after 7.1 million now have signed up and expectations have been beaten?
Well, they're still betting that this is going to be a powerful, campaign issue. They've looked to that special House race in Florida, and they think that going forward in the midterms, they will be able to just pummel Democrats on this. And Democrats are still very nervous about it. So what people are waiting to see is if there is enough time for the kind of initial unfortunate rollout glitches to kind of correct themselves and people to get more comfortable with the law come November. But the Republicans are betting that the answer to that is no, and they're going to try and sweep.
Now, Congressman Fattah, Ryan's budget comes just weeks after he made these comments about so-called inner city culture. Take a listen.
We have got this tailspin of culture in our inner cities in particular, of men not working, and just generations of men not even thinking about working or learning the value and the culture of work. And so there's a real culture problem here that has to be dealt with.
Does his budget deal with that culture? And you represent the inner city, Congressman. What are you going to do about all those men that just don't want to work for generations?
Well, Reverend, you know and I know, you name a job fair or job openings, you'll see lines around the block in these places where there's no culture for people wanting to work. The problem is not that people don't want to work, is that we have to create jobs, and the Republicans have worked against the jobs bill, against the effort to return our economy. I just want to say something about the expectation that the Republicans have about how this is going to work for them electorally. They thought a referendum on Obamacare was going to win the presidency for Romney and Paul Ryan. They were wrong. They thought it was going to win in Virginia. They were wrong. They pointed to this special election in Florida, which was a Republican seat held by Chairman Bill Young,
right,
great guy who died. And they say, well, because we didn't win a Republican seat, somehow we're off kilter. We're ready and we're getting set up for a battle in November, and people should not count the Democrats out. We're running for affordable health care. We're running for more jobs. And we believe that the culture of America is that we should value work. That's why we want to raise the minimum wage.
Michelle, the Ryan budget also turns Medicare into a voucher-like program for future seniors. But 69% support the program as it is. So isn't the move just bad politics? And won't the Democrats capitalize on this by running against the Ryan budget and what he's saying to seniors?
It's happened before, and it will happen again. I mean, everybody talks about how much they hate big government in the abstract, but when you get down to big programs like Medicare and Social Security, they do not want these tinkered with. I mean, this is what makes people the angriest. And one of the reasons that Paul Ryan has a hard time making his numbers come out is because if you're going to not discuss revenue and you're not going to cut the military, you don't have a lot of wiggle room left other than cutting programs like Medicaid and things that people rely on.
Congressman, the budget seems to embrace a notion that we've heard before from the right a lot, frankly, lately, that somehow the poor are undeserving and undeserving of help, undeserving of help and undeserving the country. Take a listen to this.
Supplemental nutritional assistance program, the buy beer program with a government credit card.
Studies show that people that are on welfare are higher users of drugs than people not on welfare.
And from the amount of obesity in this country, by people we're told do not have enough to eat.
Why don't we just pay for your clothes, pay for your shoes, pay for your housing?
I mean, I've got to go, Congressman, but what makes the rich so deserving of these tax cuts and the poor not deserving of any help? They've served the country.
Well, when we pray this evening, we should pray for our Republican colleagues that they would have more spirit to help their fellow man, and we should be thankful to live in a country where everyone can now have affordable health care.
Congressman Chaka, Fattah, and Michelle Cotto, thank you both for your time this evening. Coming up, Dick Cheney caught on tape.